Hi. I'm going to talk very briefly about game development as self-expression. So what do I mean when I say self-expression? It can have many, many meanings, but I'm going to talk specifically about expression of emotion, and you can sort of generalize it to any kind of, I guess, artistic expression or expression of ideas or impression of scenes, etc. So usually when people are when you want to express something, you're having all these emotions and you feel, I want to have some kind of creative outlet for it. Maybe some people will turn to poetry, they'll write poetry, or some people will paint, some people will make music, some people will dance it out. There's many different ways that you can express yourself. And I've noticed that a lot of people have started to make video games as a form of expression. So I got really interested in this. And I'm not talking about the player being in a game and expressing themselves, but I'm talking about the developer making a game as a form of expression. So the first game I played that made me think about this, that this was something I could do, was Gravitation by Jason Rohrer. And this game is about balancing parenthood with doing creative projects. But for me, the game was about depression. And the game lasts about 6 minutes. And it was over, before it was over, I was crying, and I thought that that was quite significant. So I started looking at games that were similar to it, because I was very interested in doing this as well. And at some point I came across Depression Simulator, and this is basically a very artistic walking simulator, and it's very uncomfortable, but that was the point, of course. And I thought it was also a very powerful experience. Then another example is What Now by Ariel Grimes. And this was also very powerful for me. It's a game about mentally breaking down and about about being overwhelmed and not being able to function anymore. So I highly recommend you to check them out. But what you can see from these examples is that they don't really tell a story. There's maybe some story in it, but they're more about some internal experience, about some emotion. And I think that's really, really amazing. If you compare it, for example, to this painting, I would interpret it as someone who's angry. Maybe you have a different interpretation. But if you see these games, they also have this emotion that they're showing, but you can interact with it and you can sort of explore this thing that someone experienced, or at least their artistic representation of it. And yeah, so not everyone will really like these games. Not everyone will make them for sure. But this is what happens in all medias. I'm using literature because I write a lot of poetry and that's what I'm most familiar with. But yeah, not everyone writes poetry. Not everyone reads books. Not everyone likes long-form games, like games that last like hundreds of hours or 20 hours even. Everyone has their own taste in the media that they consume, and also in what they create. So for some people, maybe this will be poetry, which I've been doing for a while, but now I'm really looking into making these small games instead of writing poetry. And I think there's something very unique about it as a creator doing this, because when you think about, oh, how do I put this emotion like depression or something else, maybe it's happiness, yeah, it doesn't have to be negative. When you make a game about it, you really start to think, what are the mechanics of this emotion? How do I put this into game mechanics? And this can teach you something about yourself. And I think that's a super interesting process as a creator. So maybe the next time when you feel like, oh, I want to make some artistic thing, I want to express myself in some way, maybe try to make a game about it and see how that works for you. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't, that's okay. And then maybe share it, maybe don't. If you're not comfortable with it, you don't have to. There's a ton of poetry I've written, a ton of really bad poetry, hopefully some good ones, or some I'm really happy about. And some I'll publish, some I will never see the light of day. So just create stuff and yeah, see what worked for you. So yeah, if you do this, I would be super interested in talking to you about it, or yeah, just get in touch. And yeah, thank you.